Today's interview is with Debra Frank. Debra was a smart, funny and creative TV writer who brought her unique voice to some of the most iconic shows of her time. Nominated twice for an Emmy Award, a testament to her talent for blending comedy, romance, fantasy and mystery, making Moonlighting one of the standout shows of the decade. Debra went on to write for other television projects as well, always bringing heart, humour and a sharp perspective to everything she did. So stay with us till the end and let's learn more about Debra.
Addison, for your information, I think of myself as an individual first and a woman second in that order.
You just keep saying that. Maybe you'll talk yourself into it.
What does that mean?
You just accused a man of murder. Of murder, Maddie. Based on what? Based on the fact that he was a man.
Addison, clearly, he had more reasons to kill him than she did.
Name one.
Her! He wanted her! He had to kill her husband to have her.
That's crazy. Why buy the cow when you get the milk for free?
Hello, and welcome to Moonlighting the Podcast.
Shawna and I are looking forward to reviewing seasons 4 and 5, which will include many more exciting bonus episodes and interviews along the way, so stay tuned.
Our review of each and every episode of the first 3 seasons is now complete and available for download. And yet, there's still so much more to talk about, right, Grace?
Absolutely. Now you can go back and binge listen. Be sure to catch our bonus episodes that include interviews with some key players of Moonlighting, such as the creator, Glenn Gordon-Caron, executive producer, Jay Daniel, and Sybil Shepherd herself.
And to top that off, we have also released a book called Moonlighting, an Episode Guide, which is now available in paperback and hardcover on Amazon.com. And as always, you can get in contact with us at fans@moonlightingthepodcast.com with any thoughts or your memories of moonlighting. I think it's time to continue our moonlighting journey, Grace.
Well, let's get started. Hello and welcome to a bonus edition of Moonlighting the Podcast. Our guest today is a writer who has written for popular TV movies and TV shows such as Different Strokes, Cagney and Lacey, The Wonder Years, Benson, and The Muppets Wizard of Oz. She has written many memorable episodes of Moonlighting, including The Dream Sequence Always Rings Twice and It's a Wonderful Job. These 2 episodes won her 2 Writers Guild Awards in 1987 and 1988. In 1986, she was also nominated for an Emmy for The Dream Sequence Always Rings Twice, and then in 2005 for The Muppets Wizard of Oz. Not only is she a writer, but I also consider her to be an actress because she performed a skit with our publisher extraordinaire, Scott Ryan, at our 40th anniversary reunion. Our guest today is Debra Frank. Thank you for joining us today, Debra.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's nice to finally meet you two. Thank you.
Thanks, Debra. So, why don't we start at the very beginning, rewind, 40 or so years. And tell us how you became a writer and a writer for television, how you got started in the business.
Okay, well, I actually wanted to be an actress. So I was working as a tour guide for Universal Studios during the day. And then in the evening, I belonged to a theater group and we would be putting on plays. Well, if you weren't an actor, if you weren't in one of the productions, you had another job. And during one of the plays, I was working the booth, which is doing lights and music. And I was working the booth with a friend of mine, Darlene Cravioto. And you have a lot of time where there's nothing to do when the director is working with all the actors and they're rehearsing and blocking and doing all of that. So Darlene started writing. She was writing a play, and I'm looking over her shoulder, and I'm going, oh, this is fun. This is interesting. And also, when I was a tour guide, we were huge fans of the Mary Tyler Moore Show and the Rhoda Show. And I thought, well, I'm going to give this a try. So we were on Hollywood Boulevard. That's where our theater was. And down the block, they sold scripts. And I went in and I bought a Rhoda script. And it was like $20, which was a huge amount of money at that time. It's still a huge amount of money to buy a script. I mean, yikes.
Yes.
But I bought it. And what I did is we couldn't tape things like we do now. We couldn't record anything. So what I did is I had a tape recorder and I would tape every single episode on my recorder and I would just keep listening to their voices over and over and over again. And then that way, I could get the cadence and how they sound and all of that. And then I had my trusty script so I could see how they formatted and what they do with stage direction and dialogue and how all that works out. And then I thought, well, okay, I'm going to write an episode. So I wrote an episode and I just kind of, put that away. And then at some point, I watched Play It Again, Sam, with Woody Allen. And all of a sudden I was inspired to write a feature. But instead of it being Woody Allen, I thought, well, I'm going to put myself in the lead. I'm going to do from a woman's point of view. And so I wrote a movie script from that point of view. I put it away, and I have to say, I had it's a long story. I had every bizarre job you could get in Hollywood. I was just trying to get anything to get in the business. I was Louise Lazar's dialogue coach for a while. I was Kathleen Quinlan's stand-in for I Never Promised You a Rose Garden. I auditioned for a sketch show. It was the revival of Laugh-In and also Just for Laughs. They were doing two shows. And so I auditioned for that. And the casting director said, "You're not ready, but you really have a lot of promise and I like you. I'd like to hire you as my assistant." And she said, "You'll sit in on the, all the auditions and blah, 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 and the whole thing. And it'll be a great lesson for you." And I said, "Sure, fine, anything." So the first audition I sat in on was somebody who's become one of my best friends, Ivana Chubbuck. I don't know if you're aware of her, but she's a very famous acting coach. So it was her audition with Robin Williams. Robin was not known yet. He was a complete unknown at this point. And of course, he was cast in Laugh-In. Anyway, so a friend of mine told me that I have to go back 1 second. So the casting director, Rose Gamalia, said to me, "One of the things I want you to do is I want you to join Off the Wall. It's a comedy group. And they do improvisational comedy. And I'd like you to have that kind of training." So I joined the group and everything. And I personally thought it was horrible in improv. I would just like to say that. I thought it was awful. They had an A group, a B group, and then the students. And for whatever reason, they put me in the B group. I don't think I belong there, but they put me in the B group. So I was doing improv comedy and everything. And then somebody told me that there was a writing contest at 20th Century Fox, and they wanted 2 scripts. And I went, "I've got 2 scripts. I'm going to take them out of the drawer and I'm going to send them in." And I'm a pretty optimistic person. So the minute I sent them in, I went, "Well, I'm going to be working at 20th Century Fox as a writer," right? And so I'm at class one day at Off the Wall, and my friend Albert Goodman is there. And I said, "Albert, I think I'm going to start working at 20th Century Fox as a writer." And he said to me, "Deb, I submitted my scripts too. And I went down to the studio. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of scripts. There's absolutely no way that you and I are ever going to be picked." And I went, "Oh, well, okay."
Aw.
So turns out I was one of the winners. Albert was one of the winners. They had 5,500 scripts, 5,500 applications. 2 scripts each, 5,500 applications, and they chose 10 people. Can you believe it? Albert was one, I was one, and that's how I met my husband, because he was one of the winners as well.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that's how my career began.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
I got goosebumps. I got chills with
Oh.
that story. How magical. That's so great. And you were so optimistic about it, right?
And it's funny because I'm always optimistic. I always think I'm going to get the job, even when I don't. I always go in, it didn't work out, boom, but I don't know why I'm so optimistic. I'm old enough now to know better, but still.
Well, it just shows you had the talent from the beginning, Deborah.
Oh, You're sweet. You're sweet. You know, I wanted to tell you one story because I wanted to address one thing that was said on the 40th anniversary show.
Oh,
Because Glenn
yep.
was talking about the fact that somebody from the staff told him that David shouldn't be sleeping with another woman, if you remember that story.
Yep.
Well, that someone was me, but it goes a little further than that. What happened is, after Maddie's dream sequence, she calls David and wakes him up. Glenn added a scene where David was in bed with another woman. And I went, no, 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 no. So Carl and I marched into his office and said, no, you can't do it. You can't do it. And we tried to explain to him, everybody's been waiting for these two to get together. We've created the moment. We're going to have two scenes of them together. The last thing you want to do is put another woman in the scene and in bed with him. No. Well, Glenn said, I'm sorry, I disagree with you, and sent us on our way. And I couldn't let go of it. I could not let go of it. I kept saying to Carl, it's so wrong. Why doesn't he see that it's so wrong? And finally, Carl goes, if you feel this way, you've got to go back in. You got to keep fighting for it. And I think all total, we had 3 conversations with him. And finally, and he didn't decide during any of those meetings. And finally, he called us and he said, you know, I'm thinking it's a really good scene, but it probably doesn't belong in this episode. And it was like, yes, finally. So that was it.
Well, thank
So-
you, Deborah, for that. A big thank you for that.
I know. How
Yeah.
could he not see that? Men. What can I say? Men.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so I think the line became, she's not here, when he got woken up by Maddie.
Yeah, I don't remember.
She's not here.
I told you he did it.
Kind of implying that he might be with a woman, but she's not there. We don't want to see that. You're right. You're 100% right on that.
Yeah.
And tell us, I think you need to correct us a little bit, because when we did our podcast episode on dream sequence, there were some things. Yeah, I think sometimes we say, oh, that sounds like a very Glenn line or something like that. And you were saying that when you were listening. Yeah, you were like, no, that's our line. So
Exactly. Well, and you did give Glenn credit. You gave Glenn credit for writing on that, and he didn't. All of the episodes that Carl and I did, we did on our own. There were a couple of times when Glenn would add something or rewrite something. That would happen for all of us. And I can tell you a couple of times when I didn't care for it and I didn't get my way, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, go ahead.
The big one was after we did Dream Sequence. We were not on staff when we wrote Dream Sequence. And also, that was the very first script that Carl and I wrote together. So we thought, isn't that something? So we came up with the idea of doing an episode in black and white, and we pitched it to other detective shows. And we were kicked out of every single office. Everyone said, yeah, and we were very young at the time. You don't understand the business and you can't do that. And you do like a period piece, you're going to lose the audience, the whole thing. And it became our joke pitch. So when we went in to pitch the dream sequence, it was like, okay, that'll be our joke pitch. And then we'll go in and these are the other stories that we've worked out. And when we pitched it to Glenn, there was this long pause and we're waiting for him to tell us we don't know anything. And that's when he turned and he went, you know, we could do Maddie's episode in the MGM glossy version, and we could do David's in that grainy film noir, you know, Warner Brothers. And that just took it to another level that I think really made it much more fun and made writing David's dream so easy, playful. I mean, I never wanted to stop writing that. It was, we took everything and made a parody because it was all in every one of those movies. God, we had fun with that one. That was the best.
Oh, thank you for pitching that. Thank you for writing it. Honestly, it's one of the favorites of Moonlighting fans. We could watch it over and over. You know what? If you had made it into a movie, we would have watched it. 2 hours, no problem.
Yes. So that was the first thing we wrote. And then Glenn, I guess it was like an audition piece or whatever, because it was like, I like this. They want to put us on staff. And he said, okay, he said, I've been toying with an idea. I want a woman who thinks she's a leprechaun. I haven't figured it out yet because you have to find a way into a story. And he said, I haven't figured it out yet. So can you guys come up with something? So we went home and we came up with something that he liked, and we wrote, kind of a very cute, sweet story about this woman who her father passed away when she was young, but she had this beautiful relationship with him. And it was this whole thing about trying to let her know you're special and I love you. And there's, something great, blah, 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 the whole thing to make her believe that she was this leprechaun. There was this pot of gold. And of course, you find out that was stolen and blah, blah, blah. And then we play all of this. And we play this lovely scene with Maddie and the woman, Kathleen, where they kind of have a sleepover, where you know how women kind of open up and they share all their personal stories, which I'm sure you two did when Shawna stayed with you for that time. And Maddie talks about her relationship with her father and this necklace that her father gave her and what it meant. And it was just this really charming story. And then it aired, and we barely recognized the script. There were some of those sweet scenes in there. There were some nice things, but it went in a whole different direction. The whole thing with the beginning with the guy putting on his pipe, this has never happened to me. And he says it 800 times. It was a shock when we saw it. It was a surprise. It was, that's all I can say. He made a lot of changes to the Rainbow script. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like you didn't care for the changes that didn't really resonate with your original idea.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't mean to badmouth Glenn in any way. He's a brilliant, brilliant man. I feel that he really took my career, our career, to a whole new level. And Moonlighting has just been, I don't know if anything has ever topped it, to be honest with you. It's just was such a wonderful working relationship. And my friendships with Roger and Jeff and Ron, and I mean, they're wonderful. And I wouldn't trade any of that in for anything. I never had the original script for Somewhere Under the Rainbow because Glenn took our script and rewrote it. And for whatever reason, I never had our copy of it. And I received it. If it weren't for the Moonlighting fans, I wouldn't have a copy of one of my scripts. How bizarre is that?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's all negative. Everything else is positive.
I'm glad you clarified that, because a lot of the time we get the impression that you guys put your script in and he does the changes and they film. Now, this is a similar conversation we had with Jeff and Ron when we interviewed them. I asked them, I said, so let's talk about Atomic Shakespeare. Glenn always says that Jeff and Ron wrote the script, it was great, and he only touched the ending.
Yeah.
Ron lost his mind, which I don't blame him at all. He's like, what? No, we wrote the whole thing. Now, this is where we always say, that's a Glenn line and, that's Glenn written all over it. But we apologize for that if that's incorrect. But sometimes you writers know him so well, know his writing so well, that it really sounds like Glenn's written it.
Yeah. I mean, when we know the character, because, back to my little tape recorder, I was always carrying my tape recorder around so that I had Maddie and David. And again, still, I don't call them Bruce and Sybil. To me, they're still Maddie and David. And I had my tape recorder going all the time in my ear so I could just do that dialogue, because that's what it is. That's what writing is. You're kind of,
Yeah, channeling that cadence. There was definitely a very unique cadence to Moonlighting.
Yes, absolutely.
And the way that all of you writers captured that, was pretty amazing. But yeah, let's stick with Dream Sequence for a minute, because I've got some more questions about that, of course. When we're anywhere and we talk to other people about Moonlighting, the 3 episodes that always come up are Atomic, Dream Sequence, and Big Man. Those are the 3 that always stand out. I mean, you definitely wrote, one of the classic, episodes of Moonlighting, and We just love it. Yeah, it's a go-to episode. It's an episode that I show people who don't watch the show regularly. Like, you've got to see this episode because it's so beautiful. They don't get any more beautiful in Moonlighting than they do in the dream sequence, you know?
Oh, I know. Isn't she
Yeah,
gorgeous?
right? I mean,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
I mean, the 40s, they're perfect for Sybil. I mean,
Yes.
and Bruce too. I mean, he looks good in anything. When that was being shot, are you as writers on the set while it's being shot? So in case things need to be rewritten, or, you know, if they have questions about scenes or whatever, were you and Carl on the set while that was being shot?
Short answer, no. We weren't on the set. I remember one time driving to the Aquarius Theater because I wanted to see something being filmed, but they were setting up, they were doing something. And after a while, I thought, okay, well, I've got to get back to work. So I didn't see it.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I know. So no, I didn't see it. It's funny, I didn't meet Bruce and Sybil until after the dream sequence aired. So I'd been working on the show and it aired, and I said to Carl, well, this is our chance. Let's go down and introduce ourselves to the actors. And I want to compliment them. They were so amazing. And that's the first time we met them, actually. We walked in and I saw Sybil right away, introduced ourselves, told her, you know, we loved her. We thought she was great. And she said, thank you. And that was it. And walked away. So we didn't have any kind of an exchange. And then Bruce was there and he had watched all of this and the crew was there. And, you know, he came up going, hey, hey, the writers, hey. And, you know, put his arms out and just gave us both a bear hug, you know. And so that was nice. And that was actually the very first time we met them.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah. And I hardly saw Sybil at all. I didn't see her. You know, I saw Bruce at like at the baseball game, a softball game that we used to have.
yeah.
And I actually took a picture with Tim Busfield, who was acting on Trapper John, because I was fixing him up with my girlfriend. But this is how that all came about. So I guess I was fixing her up with the wrong leading man. But anyway. But I was setting them up, and I have a picture of me with Tim Busfield, and in the background you can see Bruce watching us take the picture.
Did you take a lot of photos on the set at all?
Not on the set, but I have a collage. I can just run over here to my wall and grab that to show you. Hold on, don't go anywhere. You can keep talking amongst yourself there.
Yes, we will.
Okay, so here's Carl. This is because we were nominated for an Emmy. So that's us in the limousine on the way. And here I am with my husband. Here I am pregnant and Elise is pregnant. Can you see this one?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So we're tummy to tummy. These pictures, by the way, are in, here's a plug for Scott's book. They're all in Moonlighting and Oral History. I sent them all to Scott and he put them in there. Here's a cute picture of, can you see that one?
Yes.
Of all the writers together?
Yes, that's great. Oh, Orson Welles.
Yes. And that picture, I don't know if you've heard this story, but I knew he was going to be there, so I was able to have him sign my script, which was exciting. But also, I brought my camera and I said to him, may I take a picture with you? And he said, yes. Well, I went to give my camera to somebody, and by the time I got back, Jeff, Ron, and Roger were surrounding him. And if you can see, I'm in the background right there on my tippy toes, trying to get into the picture.
Debra, if you've listened to our episode where we reviewed Dream Sequence, I actually say, Debra went and got her camera for this photo and the poor thing is in the background behind everybody. Like the tall people should be at the back.
Not fair.
Like it was your idea to have the photo taken and you just poor little thing in the background. That felt so bad for you.
Right there. You can barely see me.
Yes.
But I was the only one who did get the autograph, so that was nice.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then, just here's the picture I was telling you about a minute ago, right there. Bruce with his little hat and everything.
Oh, yes. He's photobombing.
He's photobombing.
Yes.
He's photobombing. Yeah. Carl and I are right in front of, right at the Blue Moon.
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah. That's a great photo.
Right at the,
yeah. You and Glenn up in the corner, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
This is before selfies. And look, we took a selfie with the regular camera before there were selfies.
I was looking at that photo last night, actually, because I was watching the featurette on the DVDs.
Oh.
And that came up, and I thought, he looks like he's taking it himself.
Yeah. And then see how dressed up we are. Can you see right there?
Oh, he's so beautiful.
Yeah. He would be loving this. I just have to say that.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. There's so many people that we would love to talk to that aren't here anymore, and that's a shame,
It's such a shame. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were nominated for 2 Emmy Awards.
This is a funny story, but it has nothing to do with moonlighting. So I was writing with a guy named Steve Hayes, and we did The Muppets Wizard of Oz. And it's a musical. And Steve did like musical comedy and musicals and stuff when he was in high school. And he's very musical to begin with. So I said to him, well, why don't we do this? Instead of putting insert song, why don't we write the song? And I have to give Steve the lion's share of credit for writing it. I just came in with some rhymes and some thoughts. I was the producer going, well, here's the story, but he did the hard work. And we were nominated. The funny thing is, they did hire professional songwriters to come in, and they rewrote a lot of the songs and took out some of our songs, Steve's. But anyway, we were nominated for one of our songs. So
yes, I'm with you.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You know more than I do about that. Somebody asked me, and I had no idea what the name of the song was.
And of course, you were nominated with Carl for Dream Sequence for an Emmy.
Yes.
Honestly, that episode should have won so many Emmys. It's not funny.
Yeah, that was too bad.
And it was wonderful that you guys had Jerry Finneman for the lighting.
I mean, when you think about the lighting, when you think about what he had to do to light something in black and white, when you think about the costumes and the hairstyling and just the sets and everything and the music, my God, the music, because I know you know about Alf Clauston doing the whole thing with the fingers and the trumpet at the window.
There was a scene in which Bruce is sitting in the window of his hotel room, and he has a sign in the back of him. It's a sign, the neon sign that says hotel, but Glenn had set it up so it just says hot, and then he's playing his trumpet, but he's faking a number. And I'm thinking, well, now how am I going to deal with this to make sure that this looks really, really good on camera? So what I did is I used the freeze frame on my VCR, and I did a freeze frame of every one of his valve moves on the trumpet. And I made a chart for myself, and then I figured out every possible note that could be played with every one of those valves. And then I composed an original melody that wove its way through that chart, so that when the music was played in post-score and added to Bruce's picture, it would look like he was really, really playing the trumpet.
Everybody. And Peter, let's talk about how wonderful Peter's direction.
Yeah.
Oh, Peter Werner.
Peter Warner. Yeah. What a love, right? What an absolute love.
Yeah.
Yeah. He directed some of the best episodes, honestly. He only did 9, but him and Alan Arkish would have done the most directing on Moonlighting. But Peter Werner, you can really tell when it's a Peter Werner episode.
Yes. Yeah. He really understood the show. He understood the characters. Yeah. I mean, I think the highest compliment, the one that always stuck with me, was when I met him. Carl and I were walking up the stairs to our offices, and Glenn and Peter were walking down the stairs, and Glenn introduced us and said that they wrote the Dream Sequence episode, and he looked and he said, I read that, and my thought is, how lucky am I? And to me, that's the best compliment I've ever received.
That is so nice. Yeah.
When we had Jeff and Ron on, who are 2 of our favorite people, we just had such a great time with them. Such great guys. They talked about, say, Symphony and Knocked Flat, how that was one of the times that everyone divided up the episode, and, they each wrote part of it. And I think you were part of that as well.
Carl and I had already left the show. So they thought we had written part of it, but we didn't, because we had already left the show by that time. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So were there any scenes that you wrote that you don't have credit for? I mean, I know the credits were kind of handed out willy-nilly sometimes, according to Glenn.
That happened at the very end, like the last maybe 2 years or whatever, or last year, I don't know, season 4 or 5, when they were just under pressure and writing everything, and everybody was writing everything. They would just pick a person and say, okay, you'll get story credit. When I was a part of the show, when Carl and I were a part of the show, it was not hectic. It was not crazy like that at all. We all turned in complete drafts. We were not under any crazy time thing. I mean, like with It's a Wonderful Job, we had to get that in at a certain time, and we were turning it in at 4:30 in the morning. We had just been up writing that forever. And we were working at Carl's house, and it was 4:30, and we both got in our cars, and I headed home and he drove to the studio. You couldn't just hit send. He drove to the studio to drop it off on Glenn's desk. And even at that, it sat there for a long time. So that whole thing about that craziness, he had the scripts. He had them. So I always thought that maybe it was his way to control the network, because if the networks didn't have it, the networks couldn't ask for changes.
That's right. He'd hand them in late.
But I don't know. I can't say that's true, but that was just a thought I had. No, those first 2 years, he had all of them, everybody's.
Interesting. So you wrote so many episodes, and so many episodes were different, from Dream Sequence to Somewhere Under the Rainbow, which you say was a lot of a rewrite, but Sleep Talking Guy, It's a Wonderful Job. So when you watch and you see Sybil and Bruce, capture the words, Glenn has used the analogy of like a band. It's like a band, right? So you give them the lyrics, they sing the song. What feeling do you get as a writer when you watch Sybil and Bruce capture the words that you put on the page?
Well, the whole process is absolutely fabulous when you watch it. The words and everything, because when you're writing a script, you see it in your head. You see the scene and you write it. We would write the emotions if they take a beat, how they feel, what they're thinking when when they do their back and forth. We're writing what they're thinking, what's going on. We have that all set up. With Dream Sequence, when David, playing Zach, kills Jerry, it's like, well, we wrote that, we envisioned that, we came up with the idea that we're seeing it in the shadow on the wall. Yeah. So you never know until you watch the show how they've captured it, how it's going to look. It all comes together, and that is what becomes so exciting. And that's why I think watching the Dream Sequence was the most fabulous experience we have ever had. I have ever had watching an episode of mine, because so many times it's not what you envision, and that's okay, because you have it there and the director adds his vision. He knows what we want and he does it his way. And the same thing with Peter, but Peter enhanced it so much. I mean, it was what we saw in our heads and more. I mean, it was that incredible. It was just that incredible.
Yeah, no better feeling.
No better feeling. Yeah.
You just gonna watch, or you plan to use that thing?
She had quite a mouth on her, too.
Which thing is that?
Of course, I wasn't exactly wanting in that department either.
Bugle boy, huh?
Sure. You want to go for a drink later?
Should I bring my husband?
You're married?
Does it matter?
Might to your husband.
Hey, Ace, save your lip for the horn.
The boss liked me right from the start. Me, I like the canary. I liked her a lot.
What's the story with Tracks of My Tears? You're credited.
Yeah, you're credited for that in season 4.
Probably not a credit that you want. But
Well, let me tell you what happened there. So we were leaving the show because, as you know, everybody was pregnant at that time. Sybil was pregnant, Elise was pregnant, I was pregnant, Ron's wife was pregnant, and the only one who really wasn't affected was Ron, because as women, we all had to deal with all of this, right? So we were leaving the show because I did not want to be under that kind of pressure while pregnant. And Carl wanted to write a book. He wanted to write a book about screenwriting. So we decided, okay, we'll move on. And then they asked me, would you write an episode? And I said, I will write an episode, but here's my time frame. I don't want to write from whatever the dates were. And I never even had a meeting. I think I might have had one meeting with them where we talked about what the story was going to be. And all I knew was she was going to be on a train. That's all that was talked about. And then that was it. It was like I said, guys, work this out because I only have a month left or whatever. And then that's it. I'm not going to work anymore. And it was never done. I never did anything. I had nothing to do with it. But it was, I guess, because I might have been on the schedule to do it that they gave it to me. But here's another funny story because I had lunch with Jeff about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and we talked about that episode. And he said, "Yeah, I think I was producing and who wrote that episode?" He's looking it up on IMDb and went, "I've never met this woman that had the credit for writing it." He went, "I think I was producing at that time. I never met that woman." So who knows who wrote that particular episode? All I know is nobody wanted credit for it.
Nobody wants credit for that one.
The funny thing is, the thing that I do know is that Jeff really tried to talk Glenn out of having him marry somebody else. Did Jeff talk about that in the episode? Yeah, he tried and he just did his best. And finally, Glenn said to him, maybe you shouldn't be working here anymore. And Jeff is like, no, that's okay. That's okay.
I think a lot of people tried to talk Glenn out of that one.
It's so obvious. It's so obvious. You spend all of this time with this romantic tension and this relationship. Everybody wants a happy ending. We don't always get a happy ending in life, which is why we look for it in movies and TV shows.
That's right.
Everybody wants that happy ending. And it's like, how could he not see that? You know?
No, it's really interesting. It's almost like maybe subconscious sabotage or something. And in that episode, I think there's a lot of Glenn's subconscious in that episode. A train rushes towards Blue Moon and smashes it to smithereens, which Sybil is driving,
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I haven't even watched
that's
that episode.
It's so obvious, Deborah. It's really obvious what he's doing.
I can't stop it! I can't stop it!
Wake up.
I can't
Wake up.
stop
It's me,
it!
Walter, you're having a nightmare.
Yeah, I'm going to say that was written by Glenn.
yeah.
I think that's an easy one. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The show was taking a turn, and when we talked to Glenn today, a big question that fans have is because we really didn't get a proper ending because all the major writers left and, things were much different in season 5. But, we always ask Glenn, do you see these characters ending up together? Because that's what everybody wants. Like you say, we want the happy ending, which we never got.
Yeah.
And today he says, yes, of course, like why start this great romance if you're not going to have them end up together, at least at some point in their lives, maybe not right then, but, maybe later they came back together or whatever it looks like.
Yes.
So he says he sees them ending up together, but he definitely put some obstacles along the way that would be very hard to get around.
Yes.
If you want to be true to that character, he's only going to take so much from Maddie. He'll take a certain amount from her, but he has his pride and his ego, and he's not going to be kicked in the stomach like that. The baby's not yours and I'm married. Okay. Where do we go from
I
here?
have to tell you, I have not watched any of those episodes. I mean, I should now. I should just go back and just kind of do it now, but I've just heard so many negative things. It's like, I didn't want to, I didn't know, but I have to be honest with you. It wasn't until like within the last, I don't know, year or so that I found out about, I guess, Sybil getting Glenn fired. I had no idea that any of that happened. This is how out of the loop I was and still am. I just found out about it 39 years later, I hear that. So yeah, I had no clue that any of that was happening.
It was either her or him, apparently.
That's what I heard. And it is interesting because I did hear your interview with Sybil and I guess maybe she forgot or...
Yeah, I don't think she remembers a lot of things that happened. In the interview, we sort of had to feed her a little bit because we knew more than what she did, but we wanted her to say it. It was a bit that. Yeah.
Yes.
But you could tell that when we mentioned that, she goes, oh, well, we got through it.
Yeah.
I don't think she remembered. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was obviously the schedule. It was just really long hours. The workload would have been crazy. And maybe she just thought, no, I can't do this anymore. He's got to go. And then other people come in and she obviously tried to control it a bit better, control her hours. No, I'm going to come in at this time and leave at this time. So that's how it sort of worked out.
Yeah. And, just to be fair to her, I don't think Bruce wanted to be there anymore because he became this huge star. And at the time, everybody wanted to do features. Um, I think I'm the only person who adored and loved television. I love television. And to me, it's like, who wouldn't want to write for television?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to be on television, And I know that everybody always has this fancy thing about features and blah, 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 and the whole thing. But it's like, I just grew up as a kid just loving TV. So,
Yeah.
Were there any scripts or stories that you wanted to put on Moonlighting that didn't occur?
I remember that we had one, Carl and I just played around with an idea and we never got to it. We never made it work, but it was just something about having them wake up and they're in a different house, a different place, and they're different people and they don't know what happened, how they got there or what. It was just, we had this idea and we went, oh, that's a fascinating idea. But then our time was up and we never really got to pursue that idea. But that would have been one because it's always kind of interesting to do, something like that.
Something different.
Gauge it. Yes, I would always gauge it because loving television the way I did back in the 80s, you'd watch the episode and they'd go next week on such and such, and they'd show you the coming attractions. And it was like, oh my God, that's going to be so much fun. I can't wait to see it. And that's how I always started working, like, what coming attractions would I want to see on Moonlighting? What would I want to see that would be exciting? And that's kind of how I would kind of get into it. And also because I started as a freelance writer where you go in to pitch ideas and, they always say throw away the first 5 ideas you have because everybody else has already pitched them. So you look a little further. So anyway, that's how I would get into working a story.
Yeah, I love hearing about your process, about how you would record the voices, hear the cadence, and so much was the chemistry between Sybil and Bruce. So while you're thinking of what would I like to see in a future episode, the cadence of their voices and things like that, but like, how can I further their relationship? How can I play off this chemistry? How, did you consider the actors? Do you start considering the actors at a certain point?
No, because, like I had mentioned, we never called them Bruce and Sybil. So it was always Maddie and David. It was always the characters. What are the characters going to do today? I don't know if the other writers thought that or if they called them Bruce and Sybil, but Carl and I didn't.
Which episode would you say you really enjoyed writing?
I loved It's a Wonderful Job. Again, there was a whole arc that missing from that.
Tell us about that.
Okay.
Oh, do tell.
Okay. So the beginning, the first scene, when Maddie walks into, well, not the first, but when Maddie walks into the office and everybody's taking down the decorations and they're all in a bad mood. And that is not us. We did not write that. That again, Glenn did that. That is not us. I thought that was rude. I thought it was disrespectful. How could they be that disrespectful to her? Also, did we ever see them work? They never worked. I was appalled. This is what we wrote. She comes into the office and David is auditioning everybody for the first annual Christmas talent show. So we have people standing on their heads. We have people, juggling office supplies. We had Miss DePesto and Herbert bumping into each other, trying to tap dance. We did all kinds of playful things. And it was very similar to the limbo scene in a way.
Yeah.
And the whole point of that scene was Maddie's under all this pressure. She's under pressure from work. She's under pressure because her aunt is ill and she's got to get to the hospital and just all this is happening. And then she walks into this chaos of everybody playing and the whole thing becomes, why are you my partner? Her whole feeling is, I wish I had a grown up as a partner. So when we wanted to do this I wish I'd closed the agency and I want to see, you know, that whole thing.
Yep.
We wanted to play that everybody is better off than Maddie. We wanted to play that because we wanted to do the opposite of what they did in the movie.
Yeah.
But we had another reason, and that is we gave Maddie another business partner, a woman, and she was just as ambitious as Maddie. And the whole thing is that after we see everything, Maddie is saying, Albert, am I destitute? That's what's going to happen, right? I'm destitute. I'm homeless, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, well, let me take you. And he takes her to this countryside, and there's this beautiful home. And Maddie sees the other Maddie walking. And it's like, this is your house. And it's like, oh my God, I did well. I'm not destitute. And then Albert tells her the whole story about, you know, I won't bore you with all the details, but she had a very successful business with this woman where they were agents or whatever it was with modeling, with models. But her partner was very much like Maddie, but to the extent that her partner cheated her out of all of her money. So she's bankrupt at this point again. But because she had an ambitious person, I wish I had a grown up. I wish I had someone that money mattered to, that somebody cared about, that whole thing. And she gets that. And we see that that was not the right move for her. And that's the reason why she can come back and appreciate David for who and what he is. That was all taken out. That whole arc and that whole thing. And we set that up with, did you read the paper? Did you read what happened to Maddie? And basically what we had her do is like walk into the garage and start the car, but it's still the same thing where she's talking herself out of taking her own life. We have so much to live for. We have this, we have that. Albert, stop it, do something. I want to go back. It was all of that. And then the ending was a little different because there was, it was a cute bit where, when she walks back, it's like Mr. Pesto just has to hug her like she will never let her go again. And, you know, and the phone and the cord is, you know, and the phone and it's all dragging and being dragged because she won't let her go. She's got to hug her, you know, and the phone is dragging and and then we play the whole thing. And we had a bit with Richie where she's reminiscing about, we did this together, we did that, you know, the whole thing. And it's like, and remember when you said in the garage that I kissed you and you said, you know, whatever that dialogue was,
Yeah.
and you said, no, I didn't kiss you. And I said, no, you could, and that, all that dialogue. And so we play that back in the very last scene where she said, remember when I said, you kissed me or I kissed you? And then she throws him on the desk, kisses him and goes, well, now consider yourself kissed. We had it all planned. Every little piece fit together. Every little piece fit together. And you can imagine when we saw it, we had no idea. We were not given a script ahead of time. We had no idea. And
completely changed it. Completely. That's just nothing like what aired.
Yeah, just the beginning and that last scene.
And to all a good night.
The rest of the stuff was very, you know, there were casting changes. For instance, instead of Cheryl Tiegs, we had Christy Brinkley. So, you know, when they're dancing together and they're talking, we use all Billy Joel song titles because Christy Brinkley was married to Billy Joel. So the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we thought, oh God, we're writing going, how adorable is this? Oh, we're outdoing ourselves. This is hilarious. That's the fun of writing, especially with a partner, because it's like, oh, isn't this going to be hilarious? So we loved that. And then, of course, obviously, they probably couldn't get Christy Brinkley, so they got Cheryl Tiegs instead. But all of that is the same, except for the dialogue, which then is, aren't I handsome and don't you want to kiss me, whatever that was.
So that leads me to my next question. You write the script, it goes to Glenn. I get the impression that he makes the changes and that's it. He doesn't give it back to you.
Right.
Is that what happens or happens?
Well, I think it varies, to be honest with you, because you do get the pages. We didn't get any pages because we weren't on the show when they filmed it. Okay. So when they filmed it, we were no longer, you know, a part of the show. And no one sent us any copies of the script. So I think I only have our version of the script. I don't think I have an original. I mean, an air draft of it at all. I just have ours,
Okay.
So clarify something else about It's a Wonderful Job. Was
Yeah.
that your title? One thing that we've always heard about that is it's not us, this is what we've heard, that Glenn
Yeah.
wrote this script because Sybil was not appreciating her job. So it
No.
was kind of a message to Sybil to, you better appreciate this wonderful job. No. Okay. I've heard that story so many times.
I heard that story as well. No, no. We came up with that because we were doing a ripoff on the movie. So there was never
Yes.
any thought of writing her out of the show. And as we've soon learned, the network would never write her out of the show. They would get rid of Glenn before they got rid of her. But I understand why Glenn was surprised that they got rid of him instead of her, because there was a couple of actors during the time that would act up. And what happened is the show creator could always just get rid of them because you had a large cast, and who would notice, right? Who cared? You could always recast a part of another character. Well, with Maddie and David, you can't recast either one of them. They are the show. You couldn't even recast Elise. I mean, you probably could, but I don't think you know what I mean? So he was taken aback when that happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunate.
Am I giving you too much dirt? Am I going to get in trouble?
No. We've already discussed it. No.
Yeah. Glenn, he still talks openly about, how he was removed from the show. I mean, that's in the episode commentaries. I've heard that when he's been on other podcasts recently, talking more about that as well. And Sybil talked about it in her book. Yeah, Sybil knows. I don't know what Sybil remembers these days, if it's selective or not, but she knows because she wrote about it,
I'm going to have to read that book.
Oh, yeah. It's all well documented. And I'm personally giving you guys credit for, but I don't know if this is true. And Sybil doesn't remember either. But, in her book, she wrote about how her and Bruce had that one hookup in life, outside the characters. Like, he came to her house.
Did they hook up?
Well, they didn't sleep together, but they got moving in that direction and then kind of
Okay.
stopped. And he left. Okay. That's what they say. So that's what we'll go with. But in her book, she says that was after a steamy scene, a sexy scene. Okay. And as far as Sybil remembers, this was early on in the show. So I think my personal thought is it had to have been during dream sequence, because that's the first time in the show that they had any steamy scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Because she says they had a steamy scene together and they walked off. And I think she said to him, "Are we going to do something about this or what?" And he said, "Why don't I come to your house tonight?" And, came over that night. So I don't know. I think it was during the dream sequence, because when else in the show did they have a heated, steamy scene that they were walking away from,
Wow. Well, thank you for that gossip. That thought. Because I haven't read her book, so I don't know. I do know that she does say that they never had a fling or whatever. So, so I don't know. The only thing that I ever remember, because I didn't go see dailies a lot, because, we were just always writing. But a couple of times I would go just because if I wanted to hear them or see them or whatever. And one time before dailies, and you know how they'd have the thing before they do a scene. So before they did that, it was a car scene and they're sitting or something where they're sitting together. And he says to her, "So, you think we're going to make a lot of money? You think this is going to be a hit? What do you know?" And it's just kind of cute now to see what happened, that there he is, because, he had been a bartender before.
Yeah.
And it was like, "So, what do you think, this is going to be a hit and we'll make money?" So, and that's the only inside thing that I have.
Yeah. Alan Arkish talks about how they would sit in the car and have like kind of intimate conversations in a way, talk about their lives and things like that in between shooting.
Yeah.
They'd asked to turn the audio off, though.
Yeah.
It did?
Yeah.
Yeah. They would ask to turn the audio off, and then they would watch them sit in the car and just talk about their lives, like have kind of intimate conversations is how he described it.
Wow.
There's a clip on YouTube of Sybil and Bruce. They're waiting for a Good Morning America interview to start. And this is during Every Daughter's Father is a Virgin. And they're sitting in costume, but they're waiting to be interviewed. And there's 30 minutes of them just talking about their lives. And it's kind of intimate stuff, I mean, not like intimate, like sexy details or anything, But just like, oh, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, I went shopping, I bought furniture, and he went skiing. And, you're just hearing them talk about their lives, which is just such a treat for fans because we're always wondering about the blurred lines in that relationship,
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
everything in Moonlighting seemed to be a bit of a blurred line, Everyone calls them the characters and the actors' names at the same time. And we know that their romance overlapped and, all those things.
It was a great finding that too. It's just
Well,
them
years ago.
sitting. It was all rolling and they're waiting for David. Is it David Hartman? Who are they waiting for to be interviewed?
Yeah.
And they're just sitting there
Yeah.
and the camera's on them. They knew that the camera was on them, but it's just before the interview. They're waiting to get set up and they're just sitting there talking. And then we just loved it because we'd never seen them talk as Bruce and Sybil. It was great.
Yeah. Interact as real people.
That's right. And it was
Yeah.
definitely before Every Daughter's Father is a Virgin because she's wearing that beautiful white outfit when they go out to dinner.
That was one that I think the whole staff wrote.
Okay.
I think that came from a freelance writer. I think that was Bruce Franklin Singer.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. What I have that you've written, Dream Sequence, Somewhere Under the Rainbow, North by North to Pesto, Sleep Talking Guy, It's a Wonderful Job, and Tracks of My Tears. Those are the episodes that I have.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
North to Pesto, I have to tell you that it was Christmas time and they wanted to give Bruce and Sybil a week or two off so that they could visit family and whatever. And so Glenn called us in. It was like if no one knew what they were going to do, they'd go, come on in, kids, and we're going to do this one. And it was, you need to do a DePesto episode because we have Bruce and Sybil for 2 days. And maybe we had Sybil an extra day and Bruce for one. I'm not quite sure how that worked out. But anyway, that's how that all came about. One of my favorite lines at the end that we did is, we're going to go talk to the writer so we're in next week's show.
Does that mean she's not going to share all the intimate details?
We better
with us?
get back to work.
But we don't have any work.
Of course we do. We have to talk to the writers and get them to write bigger parts for next week's episode.
I'll buy that.
They would have just boiled us. Run us over the coal, rake us over the coals, whatever, had there been social media. Oh, they would have killed us. One of the writers brought in a newspaper and said, a lot of people are writing in going, what happened to Bruce and Sybil? Are they going to be in next week's episode or what's happening? And it was like, they got the time off. And we said, wouldn't it be fun? Wouldn't it be fun to see Miss DePesto all dressed up and have some lovely girl time together with Sybil and put on makeup and dresses and doop and all of that. And she can have some romance and she can kiss a guy and she can do all of that. And so that's how that one came about. So again, we were given that.
Yeah, that was great. I love that episode.
Yes.
That Agnes gets out to the Detectives Association ball or whatever it was called. And it was great. I loved it.
Thank you.
She would have had fun doing it too.
Yeah.
Mr. Pesto, I just had an idea. You ought to get somebody to look at that throat, Maddie. How would you like to go to a little soiree with a bunch of private dicks in their Janes?
Excuse me? What Mr. Addison is trying to say is, I had an idea. Are you doing anything tonight?
She certainly is. She's going to the California Investigators Association annual banquet and ball.
I am?
You am.
So Scott Ryan published our book, by the way. It's an episode guide. Scott Ryan's publishing company published it for us a couple of years ago.
Is it selling?
It's his #1 seller is what he told us. So yes.
He goes,
Really?
it outsells my book, so thanks for that.
But hey, he gets a cut of it too, so he's not
That's
mad.
right.
I love Scott. I just love him. He called and interviewed us and it was great. And then he came out here. We're going to meet for lunch. And it was Scott and his wife and his cousin. And we were going to meet for lunch. And it's like 3 hours later, it is like, well, he had to be on stage to interview people. And it's just so wonderful. The people that I have met. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's right, Deborah. The same with us. And it's all because of a show 40 years ago that we've met all these lovely people and we get to interview the cast and crew.
Yeah.
I guess with it on Hulu now, it's a relevant book to have, right? An episode guide. I always thought Moonlighting needed an episode guide. I saw that the Golden Girls had an episode guide, which gave me the idea like Moonlighting needs an episode guide, it deserves everything every other show has, right? So
we even refer to it now when we're doing an episode. When we record our episodes, I refer to the book now because We've got the plot, the guest stars, we've got the Agnes rhymes, we've got any continuity errors or any goofs, quotes. And at the end, we've got the total door slams. We've accumulated all the door slams, all the Agnes rhymes, all the outfit changes, which includes a claymation. How many feet out of the elevator?
Yes.
And then Shawna put together all the kisses. She put together the real kisses, the fantasy kisses, and the alternate universe kisses.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I always say. If people want to know the total door slams of Moonlighting, you got to get the book.
Yeah.
We were always complaining we didn't get enough kisses, but when you look at this, there's quite a few kisses. It's just that they're far apart. So
Yes. Okay, so I want to ask you guys a question.
Sure.
Because I have not watched Dennis Dugan as Walter. What did you think? Because I've heard Glenn say, oh, mechanically he nailed it. What did you think?
When we had Glenn on, this was
Yeah.
something I needed to confront him on. Absolutely. So I was 12 to 16. So I was, 15 probably when, we got to season 4 and all that, 15, 16. And I very invested in the Maddie and David relationship, followed this my whole teenage life, which is very impressionable. And I swear Maddie and David's relationship still affects my relationships today.
Well, I wonder if that's good or bad.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but yeah, so we're at an impressionable age. But anyway, I do remember, we knew that Sybil was pregnant and Sybil was gone for all of those times. And then, but Tracks of My Tears, we knew that she was coming back. So I'm watching, okay. And, they're together in a dream sequence at first. We do see them together, but it's a dream sequence. We don't see them in the office together. It was like the last 8 minutes of the show. And I remember looking at the clock, like, what is going on? They're not even together in the same room yet. And it's 8 minutes left in the show after we've waited over a year for them to finally come back together. And then finally she comes back to Blue Moon. They move into her office. They start fighting, okay, slamming of doors and whatever, that's them. He comes back in. They apologize, hug, kind of start to kiss. And then, it was like a double punch in the stomach. I'm married and the baby's not yours. That's what she told David, like 1-2 punch,
Oh my gosh.
David, listen to me. I got married last night. I'm married.
What?
Married. I got married. I'm married.
This decision to marry her off was, I think, a jump the shark moment of the show. I remember thinking, I'm done with you. I'm done with this show. And here I am 40 years later talking about it on a podcast. Right?
Talking about how done you are with the show.
Talking about how I'm still done with them. Yeah. So had to have it out with Glenn about this choice with Walter. Now, Walter himself, I don't mind Walter. I think he's a nice guy. I really like Dennis Dugan. I really love that he was the director in season 5 because he really seemed to be someone that really loved Bruce and Sybil, like got along with them equally. I think that was a rare find. And he did a commentary on one of the DVD episodes and he just talked so fondly of both of them. So I think he was a really good addition to the show. It was just very wrong move on Glenn's part. Like we said, what are you even thinking when everyone is so invested in the Maddie and David relationship? And we've seen David angst over her for a year. We have so much sympathy for David.
Wow.
And Maddie comes back and then you give us this 1-2 punch of, well, I'm married and the baby's not yours.
The actual, honest to God, telling you what the Lord loves truth is, I don't know what to say. Mrs.
Bishop, Walter Bishop.
Just testing. Well, forgive me for not throwing rice, but aren't we forgetting one teeny tiny little plot point?
It's not yours.
You're absolutely sure about that?
I'm absolutely sure.
And David just looks devastated. And I just remember being so devastated over it. Now, that being said, the following episodes, there's Ika Spouse after that. And then Maddie Hayes Got Married. I don't think Walter's in Ika Spouse, but Maddie Hayes Got Married is actually a wonderful episode. It's a great episode. Yeah, it's wonderful. You should watch that.
Who wrote that one?
Maddie Hayes Got Married.
Back to the book.
That was Roger and Charles.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they kind of right some of the wrongs. And they probably could have gotten the show back on track from there, but then there was more nonsense after that. But I like Walter. I like Dennis Dugan. It's not Walter's fault. He was kind of a pawn in the game. That's his name, Walter Bishop. I think that...
Oh, that's very clever. Okay.
Yep.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I think that even if she came back with a fiance, it's a barrier, but it's not as permanent. Her married to someone else, no, we cannot wrap our minds around this. No.
The other issue was too, because of The Man Who Cried Wife, when she's saying about spontaneity and McGillicuddy gets married, meets the girl on the Friday and marries her on the Saturday, and she's not spontaneous. You have to test drive. I read Consumer Reports, she says, right? But then she comes back and she's married because she's met this guy on a train and they got married in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It was just
It's not in
completely
character.
opposite to what Maddie would normally do,
Yeah.
her character.
As she said a million times, I'm a thinker. Maddie doesn't act spontaneously. She doesn't marry people that she meets on a train. It's so out of character.
Yes.
I just don't know what Glenn was thinking. And yes, we've talked to him about this, and we talked to Ron and Jeff about this. And yes, this is one of the angsts of the show for sure.
Yeah. Why did they make it that it wasn't his baby? I'm asking you.
Well, this is a point of contention because it's like she says it's not his baby, but then when you get to Win with a View, the angel says it is his baby.
It is David's baby. We're just trying to drag the audience through more mud, basically, or, Well, here's the thing, because David says a couple times, well, you wouldn't have gotten married if you were having my baby, right? You're not having my baby, right? Like, if you're having my baby, then I'm going to do something about you being married, And so she has to kind of convince him, no, it's not your baby. Supposedly the doctor in Chicago told her, because of sonograms and calendars and all this convoluted thing, that she got pregnant when Sam was there. The timeline, they say, was Sam's baby, but we find out later it was David's. Of course it was,
Oh, you
Of course
find out later that it was David's?
Yes,
Win with a View.
it ultimately is.
Yeah, I'm so glad we're talking. I'm finding out so much about the show. This is really
You're finding so much out about your own show. Like Jeff says, we'll never know as much as Grace and Shawna because Grace and Shawna know everything, Us as fans, it's never enough information and we always want more. And yes, we know all the ins and outs. Like we were telling Curtis Armstrong, we know an episode. Like if I just see a picture in Sybil's dress, I know what episode it is.
We know.
Like we know what they were filming at the time just by the clothes she's wearing. That's how entrenched we are in the show, But hey, when you do a podcast, you better know more about it than most of the fans, right? As much or more than the fans out there listening. Yeah. Otherwise, why would people want to listen to a podcast about it?
Yes,
So-
yes.
Oh, Deborah's given us some nuggets today.
So yeah, it's always so much fun to hear more about the writing and the process.
Yes. Well, there was one thing because I made a note because I thought you might find this interesting. When we were talking about the dream sequence and everything, one of the things that we did when we went in and pitched it to Glenn, we basically talked about there's a thing called the Rashomon effect. And this was created by you're nodding, so you know about it?
I'm familiar, but go ahead.
Yeah, so it was created by a Japanese director named Rashomon, and his whole idea was that you tell the same story from opposing, conflicting versions of it, conflicting narrative, so that she has one version, he has another version, and we thought, well, that would be interesting, and that's how we got into doing it, because our big selling point was they'd get to play three characters. They'd get to play, Bruce and Sybil would get to play David and Maddie, and two different versions of Zach and Rita. And we thought that would be a great selling point. Who wouldn't want that? And so anyway, I thought I would bring that up because that was just kind of a thing for anyone that's interested in
Look,
writing.
it was great for the fans too, to see them in an alternate universe kissing, because obviously at that stage you couldn't have Maddie and David kissing.
Yeah,
So-
right, exactly.
And the fans loved it. If you could put them in a different place and have them in a romantic setting, fantastic. You just love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the perfect vehicle for moonlighting. Like you said, watching them play three different characters. I'm sure it was fun for them too at that time.
Yeah.
Now, is it true that the stage direction on the kiss was the longest kiss in television history?
I believe it was. Wait, don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Wait, don't go anywhere. Hold on. Okay, we can cut the
Here.
dead space. Hold on.
No,
hold
it's
on.
all right.
Sure.
She's going to
Okay.
her library.
So Carl gifted this to me.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
lovely.
Oh, that's
This was
beautiful.
my Christmas present from him. And let me show you this for a minute. Hold on.
So it's the
hold on.
script of Dream Sequence, and he's made it as a book.
Oh.
And there's the
gosh.
autograph.
That's the autograph.
Can you see it?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
it-
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
Okay.
great.
And then,
my God.
all right. The hungriest kiss in the history of television.
Ooh,
Yeah.
the hungriest.
The hungriest
Yeah.
kiss.
Yes,
I
on
love
the
it.
two of them as he presses her to him. Yeah. And he's saying, I'm terribly confused. I still don't hear anything. And with that, their lips meet, the hungriest kiss in the history of television. And the score soars, and the camera pushes in dramatically until finally their heads sink below frame, and we fade out.
Oh, I love that
that's
kiss,
good.
Deborah. I
Um,
freaking love that kiss.
Yes.
Well, I'm
true.
glad I made you happy.
And I don't like you.
Oh, yeah? And why are you still here talking to me? Here I am, Mrs. Adams. I thought you said you didn't like me.
I don't.
Oh, then. You gonna tell me to go away? I don't hear anything. I still don't hear anything. Confused. I still don't hear anything.
And we love the kiss sitting on the windowsill when he's got the trumpet.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
That it's so funny. That is one of my favorite bits, I have to tell you. Carl wanted to take it out. You know, because there's a fine line between funny or satirical and going too far, or like, you don't know if something works. Is it too silly? And he went, I don't know. I think it may be too much. But Carl was an urban planner before he was a writer.
Oh.
So he was a negotiator. So it was one of those things where it's like, what line do you want? What do I have to give up so I can get this in the script? Because I want this in the script. So that's how that happened.
Oh, thank God. It's the best.
Yeah.
That episode was the best excuse to have them kissing a lot. We loved it. We loved it.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad.
And being-
Thank you. I'm
being really
glad.
So tell us about the day Orson Welles came on the set and did that intro.
I remember he was wearing flip-flops.
Was he?
Yes. And, he was a heavy man. So I thought, they didn't have those slip-on Skechers in those days. So it was probably much easier to just wear flip-flops than to bend over and, tie your shoe.
Yeah.
Somebody drove him, but it was like an old car. And I believe it was green or something. He could not have been lovelier. He was so gracious and so sweet. And, he died a week later.
Yeah.
As you can see in the picture, he doesn't look ill. He doesn't look sick at all.
Yeah.
And Glenn directed it, which was a big deal because he really wasn't supposed to, I guess because of guild rules or whatever. It really should have been done by Peter.
Oh.
And Glenn was so nervous, I don't think he said action, or he didn't say cut. He didn't say something because he was so nervous doing that. But it was very special. It was, yeah. The one other thing I wanted to show you, because I was not on the show at this point, but I got to meet Imogene Coca.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I love her.
Here she is. Look at this picture. Tell me
There
again.
she is. Yes.
This is Herbert Viola, my co-worker.
Your mother. It is the privilege of a lifetime to make your acquaintance, Mrs. DePesto.
How do you do, Mr. Violin?
So I became friends with Karen Weiss, the casting director, and this is how our friendship began. I'd be writing a show and she'd be saying to me, she tried to get all the information she could about who the guest stars are and what their characters were like, so she could start getting an idea of who to look for casting. Then they'd be up in the room and they would be, auditioning people. And if Glenn came up with an idea of maybe we should play the character this way or whatever, she'd contact me and go, okay, he may want to go in this direction. Then we would be able to come up with thoughts on how to do. And this is how we forged our friendship. So
you had a mole in the organization.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So when Imogene came in, it was like, I love her. I just love her. And Karen knew I loved her. So Karen invited us to have dinner. So my husband and I went and had dinner with Imogene and Karen, a lovely outdoor patio restaurant with beautiful lights, twinkling lights and everything. And Imogene was so fabulous. Now, my husband is telling the story about how this man was struck by lightning 7 times. And it's a funny story. Not funny to the man who was struck by lightning, obviously, but it was so funny that my husband could not get the story out because he kept laughing so hard. And Imogene, being such a sweetheart, she began laughing. We spent all evening laughing just so my husband could finish telling the story, because it was just how this poor guy, every time he went out, this happened to him over and over. And my husband couldn't finish telling the story without laughing. She was adorable. And as you can tell in this picture also, that I'm pregnant.
Oh,
and,
yes.
and after I had the baby, I got invited back to her hotel. She was staying at a hotel near the studio. And I brought the baby so she could meet the baby. I mean, this is how invested she was. And she had a stuffed animal to give me for the baby. And I have a picture of her. It's downstairs. I should have brought it up. But it's my baby and Imogene and Karen. And we're right there. I mean, what a lovely, lovely human being. And she wrote me a letter afterwards. And it was just how I love your family. What a lovely family. And it was really one of my highlights. It was just meeting her was just it was fabulous.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I just love Imogene Coker.
Oh,
and you know what? That's a lovely story. You got to meet her, and you've got a photo with is it a daughter or a son?
I have 2 girls, 2 little girls.
Okay. Well, obviously you got a photo with your daughter with Imogene Coker. I mean, what?
I know.
That's
know.
Crazy. That's crazy. And she was the perfect choice to be cast as Agnes's mother. I mean, she's quirky, she's eccentric, she's Agnes.
And they look alike when you think about it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. The eyes and no, it was absolutely perfect casting.
Who's that with Mr. Violin?
Mr. Viola.
Mr. Viola's with Mr. Violin?
Perfect casting.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah.
Deborah, we don't want to keep you too long. It's already been an hour and 40 minutes. And
I didn't realize the time.
Grace, there's going to be a lot of editing.
I feel like one thing we haven't heard yet that I do want you to talk about before you go is Carl and how you met him and how you guys started writing together. And so tell us a little bit more about him.
Well, let's see how that happened. Remember in the beginning when I said when I was in the theater group and I was doing the booth with my friend Darlene Cravioto, and she was writing the play? Well, cute story there. When I was nominated for an Emmy, for writing Dream Sequence, she was nominated for an Emmy for a movie of the week that she wrote. So that was really, I know, what a special moment that was, because we began writing together like that, and then we were both there. So Darlene had a gathering at her house. Well, there were maybe 20 people or so there. And Carl was one of the guys, and I met him there. And what had happened is I had been writing half-an-hour sitcoms, and I'm not cut out for half-an-hour sitcoms, and I'm much more into the character and the comedy coming from the character or whatever. And so I decided that I wanted to write a spec Remington Steele, because I was a fan of Remington Steele in the same way you guys were a fan of Moonlighting. And it was like, even when I met the people at Remington Steele and chatted with them, they were talking, did we do an episode about this? And I went, no, you didn't. What you did was, and I had all the episodes, I knew everything. Because when you're in these story meetings, you throw so many things in, and it's like, okay, well, we won't do that. Well, we won't do that. So you're in these meetings and you don't remember, did we do that episode or did we just talk about that episode? Were we going to? So you don't know, but as a fan and you're just getting what's on the air, you have it all. So I wrote that by myself, and I was lucky enough to sell the spec script. And that doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen, that you write a spec script and they send it in and they buy it. So that was like a really big deal. And off of that spec script, I got Cagney and Lacey. But I didn't want to write alone, because to me, I need a partner. I need somebody to bounce things off of. Otherwise, I just have the same thought and it goes in a loop and a loop and a loop. So I need to open my mind. And the way I do that is with a partner. So I went back to my former partner that I was doing the half an hours with, and I went, "Would you do this with me?" And he said, "Sure." And so we wrote it and everything. But then we went our own separate ways because he was doing other things. So I met Carl at this party, and he was teaching a writing class, which was interesting because he had never sold anything before. He had never written a script before, but yet he was teaching a writing class. This is the chutzpah that man had.
Right.
Such chutzpah. So he said, "Would you mind coming and speaking to my class?" And I said, "No, fine, I'd love to." And while I was there talking, we just started bantering back and forth about ideas and talking and about story. And we just clicked. We just clicked. And it was one of those things where it's like, "Do you want to write? Because I'm looking for a partner now." And he said, "Sure, let's work together." And so we were working on ideas to write a spec script because we had not written anything together. And you always have to write a spec script. So but off of either my Remington Steele or the Cagney and Lacey, my agent was getting us meetings. And so that's how we got the meetings to go and pitch. And I don't know what it was that Glenn read, but that's how Carl and I got into to pitch and to do that. And then Carl wanted to go off and write a book. So then I had to find another partner. So it was one of those things where you mentioned earlier about the Golden Girls. So we had met while we were on the Emmy circuit, and all the nominees go out and there's cocktails, there's parties, there's various things. I had met two writers, two guys who were working on Golden Girls, and I thought they were hilarious. And again, Karen Weiss knew them. So when I was looking for a partner, I said to Karen, "Would you contact these guys and find out if they have a friend who's looking for a writing partner?" Because I clicked with them, and I think I would click with anybody that any other writer they know who might be writing. And that's how I met my other partner, Jack, who I wrote with for a while. And then when I had my second child, I want to take some time off because I knew this was my last one. I ended up taking, I think, 2 or 3 years off to be with my kids at that point. It was 3 years because when my little one started preschool, then I went, okay, I'm going to get back into writing again. And Jack was already doing another project with another partner. So I connected with Steve Hayes, who I did The Muppets Wizard of Oz and every movie of the week that involves Santa Claus and Christmas. So that became our niche.
Yeah, that's amazing. I loved it. Very, very, very interesting. You like fantasy, right? I mean, a lot of the Moonlighting episodes that you wrote involve some sort of fantasy or dream.
I think I do gravitate to that. Yeah. I guess because that's the happy ending. I guess that's like what you wish life would be, and I guess I do gravitate towards that. Yeah.
It's a nice place to live. Yes.
It was lovely having some fantasy episodes. Thank God they had you and Carl.
Oh,
such a wonderful team.
He's probably listening. He's probably around. I'm sure with all this, he's probably listening to all of that. So.
Absolutely.
But I have enjoyed this so much. I thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. We're so grateful that you joined us today and hear all these stories. It's just, you don't know what a treat it is for Grace and I, to have you guys on and join us and hear all the stories about moonlighting and how it all came together and writing. And yeah, it's candy to us. So
thank you. Thank you. This has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Just before we go, what are you doing now? Are you still writing anything, or you got any things coming up?
I have been writing a book, a true crime story. And I have the rights to it, and it's painful. It's a painful story. Yeah. So I have been working on that. And the plus to that is that I'm doing it with one of my daughters.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yes. So the fact that she and I are together working on something has enriched my life. Yeah. So
it's like full circle.
Yeah. Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, if anything comes of that, I will let you know.
Yeah, let's keep in touch. And we will make sure you get a copy of the book. We'll tell Scott to pass it along.
Great. Will you sign it?
You know, when we're all in the same place, right? Because I'm in Shanghai and Grace is in Melbourne and you're in LA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Terrific.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Debra. It was such a joy talking to you.
Oh, I had the time of my life. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, until next time,
I'm Grace.
and I'm Shawna.
Thank you for listening to Moonlighting the Podcast.